Hey guys, it's Dr. Justin Marcagiani here. Today's video is going to be on joint pain and inflammation. Why are your joints hurting? And what's the root cause? How do we fix that? Before we do, please smash that like button. Also, let me know in the comments down below your experience with your joint pain and things that you've done to help improve that for yourself. All right, so let's dive in. Anytime we see pain and inflammation for the most part are synonymous. So when we talk about inflammation, what is inflammation? It's the body breaking down faster than you can repair and heal. So we have catabolic metabolism, which is your body breaking down. When we're stressed, we're catabolic. Our hormone cortisol or cortisone or the prednisone, steroid medications, those are all catabolic, right? You're trading some inflammation reduction, but you're breaking down the tissue in the long run. And then on the other side, when we're more anabolic, we're building up, we're healing, we're recovering. Things like growth hormone, testosterone, our female hormones, progesterone, those are going to help you build back up. And so being healthy is nothing more than being in a balance so you're not breaking down faster than you're building up. Now, certain things can cause that acutely, exercising really hard, lots of compressive running and bouncing on your joints, right? Inflammatory foods, lack of sleep, all of these things can take and kilt inflammation up a little bit and drop your healing and recovery down. So take your anabolic metabolism, healing and recovery, drop it, and it can increase the catabolic breakdown side of the metabolism. So the goal is we want to be at homeostasis and even just slightly a bit more anabolic. So a couple of things we can look at is we can look at your adrenals. How are your adrenals doing? If your adrenals are pretty low, you probably have been in a catabolic, sympathetic fight or flight state for a while, and you're kind of in this breakdown mode. So having lower, flatter adrenals, or even if we catch you more in acute phase and your cortisol is really high, that's a sign that you're in a catabolic breakdown state. Next, we may look at your male or female hormones. We may see lower testosterone, lower progesterone, lower estrogen. These are all signs that we're in breakdown mode as well. Are you eating enough protein? I mean, do you know half your bones are protein, right? So obviously you have minerals, calcium, magnesium, vanadium, strontium, these kind of minerals, copper, zinc, really important, but half your bones are protein. And so if we're not eating enough protein, vegan, vegetarian lifestyle, you're exercising really hard, you're breaking down your muscle from exercise, but not getting enough protein to build it back up, that can be problematic, right? How much protein do you need? I did a video on this recently. At least half your body weight in grams of protein. So if you're 100 pounds, 50 grams of protein. If you're 200 pounds, 100 grams of protein. That's on the low end, right? So 0.4 to 0.5 on the low end, right? The FDA says 0.8 to 1.2 grams per kilogram. That's like 0.35 to 0.45 grams per pound. Just that's my equivalent there. Up to the high end of 3/4 of a gram to 1 gram per pound of body weight. So that's like if you're 200 pounds, that's like 150 to 200 grams of protein. If you're 100 pounds, that's like 75 to 100 grams of protein. So make sure protein is dialed in. Also, people in this day and age consume a lot of muscle protein. Think of that as the chicken breast or the beef meat, the ground muscle meat, right? But they're not getting the connective tissue. And so we used to do this with soups and broths and bone marrow. That's how we got a lot of the connective tissue in our diet. And so if you're not doing that, that's where a good collagen supplementation can be excellent. So when you make a collagen product, you're basically taking the hide of the animal, bones, cartilage, connective tissue, you're grinding it up. A lot of times you're going to be adding in, like in my product, True Collagen, we use a proteolytic enzyme. We put it on there that breaks the tissue up into a collagen peptide form. Very well broken down, neutral tasting. A lot of times you'll get a sulfur taste. Some of them products use sulfuric acid to break it down, so you don't quite get the clean taste. So with a nice collagen peptide, you can put it in your coffee. It blends wonderfully. You're going to have really good connective tissue building blocks for your skin, for your hair, for your nails. One of the biggest things I pride myself on is doing 20 to 30 grams of collagen every day. I mean, it's excellent building blocks for my hair, for my skin, for my nails. So from an anti-aging standpoint, you want to keep your joints good, right? Definitely. But it's the same connective tissue for your hair, skin, and nails as well. So very important because we're just not getting that stuff in our diet unless you're consistently doing bone broth and soups and doing bone marrow, then you're probably not getting enough of that. So really important. Next is inflammatory food. So anytime you're increasing omega-6, your junky omega-6 processed fats, these could be excess nut or seed oils. And again, a little bit of nuts and seeds is fine. It's that ratio, keeping it in that 1-to-1 to 4-to-1. So you could really even do your omega-6, 4 times in the omega-3, and you'd probably be okay. So the omega-6 is going to be your almonds, your nuts, your seeds. Not as bad. A lot of the processed oils start to become more rancid and more oxidative. That's going to be like your soy, your canola, your safflower. Just, there are a lot more process that going on. If you look at the canola oil, there's a video on YouTube about it where you can actually see how nasty and how processed it is to make it to get to where it is. So there's a lot of steps, 50 different steps, and that can be very inflammatory on your body when you take in those kinds of oils. So you want to really be aware of that and stay away from those kinds of oils. Now, the better fats are going to be anything saturated is going to be good, especially if it comes from healthy animal products. So anything coconut's going to be good. Your monos that are going to be liquid are going to be olive oil and avocado, still okay. Not as much high heat. Any type of coconut, palm tends to be still pretty good. Any of your tallows from beef, duck, these are all going to be really good. Of course, ghee or butter. If you're a little more dairy sensitive, try ghee because it has the lactose and the casein skimmed off the top. These are all really good fats, very anti-inflammatory. You're staying away from the excess omega-6. You're going to be consuming more grass-fed meat, which is going to have a more full spectrum of gamma-linolenic acids, less omega-6. And again, you're going to be consuming less processed carbohydrates. So if you need more carbs because for energy or you're more ectomorph, you have a higher metabolism, look at safe starches, squash, sweet potato, maybe even a little bit of white potato. Again, we'll talk about nightshades in a minute, but another component for joint pain can be nightshades. And the component in that are called alpha solanine. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So you can look at some safe starches that are grain-free. Rutabaga, parsnips, turnips, white potato, sweet potato, greener bananas. These are all good options that keep you going away from the grains and things that can be a little bit more inflammatory on the grain side. Grains can be very inflammatory, so we want to have other starchy options that are still grain-free. And then, of course, we already kind of talked about alpha solanines and nightshades. These are in tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, peppers. These can go in the joints and for some people, cause inflammation. So keeping those out of the diet initially can be very helpful. And then we can also look at oxalates. Oxalates are different anti-nutrients that are going to be in a lot of vegetables. You'll see them in some fruit too. Common are going to be in spinach is going to be a big one. I'll pull up my list here. I'll pull up my list so you guys can see it here. If you go to justinhealth.com, you could pull it up if you go to the members area. Let me get it on screen for y'all. Okay. Okay, excellent. Okay, here we go, guys. Oop. Let me see. Let me get the right screen on here for you guys. I'm not sure why it's doing that, but either way, I'll have to figure that out later. But if you go to justinhealth.com, you'll be able to see it. Let me see if I can fix this here. Give me 1 sec. Okay, here I am. I'm sharing my screen. Okay, I found it out here. We got a window. All right, cool. Let's go to justinhealth.com. If you're a patient, you know my password to the members area. Okay, we go here. I'll put it up on here for you guys so you can see it. Oh, let me get the right screen here. Window. Okay, apologize for that. And so when you come here, if you look at oxalates, Oxalate Diet, and these are going to be the foods that you got to be careful of. And so you can see some of the lower oxalates. Now, again, in joint pain, this can be a potential issue. You also see it in vulvodynia, vaginal pain. It's also a big deal. Again, we'll run an organic acid test. There's one by Great Plains Labs that we'll use that has a marker for oxalates. And a lot of times oxalates can be made by fungus and yeast. So we look at D-arabinose. We'll look at yeast in the stool to get a window of that. Of course, we want to make sure we're not feeding a lot of the yeast because usually the yeast are going to be fed with excess sugar, processed stuff as well. But you can see a lot of the high oxalates can be beer, chocolate, right? You're going to see on the fruit side or on the vegetable side, you'll see spinach is really high. So you can see some of the seeds. So you may get some benefit cutting out some of the seeds as well. On some of the fruit, you can see a lot of berries, right? Which kind of stinks. But again, I mean, you're going to see it more on the vegetables, especially the spinach. So beans, celery, chives. There you go. Spinach, very, very high. And so I just just recommend, if you are someone that has a lot of joint pain, we can always test and run a specific organic acid test and see if those oxalates are high. If they are, we can work on cutting them out for a period of time. It's worth giving the try. This kind of gives you an idea of what's low, what's high here. I'll put this link down here below in the notes for you guys so you can access it. I hope you enjoyed it though. Perfect. And so we'll look at nightshades, we'll look at oxalates, we'll look at the inflammation in the diet. We're going to look at collagen, connective tissue building blocks. Are you getting enough protein in your diet? Are you consuming enough protein? Is your hydrochloric acid and enzymes high enough? You keeping the inflammation down, artificial sweeteners and sugars and things like that. Now we look at anti-inflammatory supplements. So we could add also in things like higher dose fish oil. We could also add in vitamin C, which is a building block for collagen. We may also add in some liposomal curcumin, which is very anti-inflammatory. These are some really good options that we can add in to kind of bring the inflammation down. So we work on the diet strategies. We work on the good collagen building blocks, connective tissue. We work on some of the anti-inflammatory supplements. We may look in the hormones too to see if we're overly catabolic versus anabolic, right? Do we have that breakdown of the adrenals happening? Do we have to work on supporting some of the anabolic side? So this kind of gives you a pretty good window of what to focus on. Again, this is Dr. J here. If you enjoyed today's video, let me know in the comments, share with family or friends. And again, I'll put a list of recommended products, the collagen, some of the supplements. You really want to get your digestion good, make sure your protein's high enough. These are all really important foundational things to keep in mind and think about. And again, if you guys want to reach out and dive in deeper with myself or my colleagues, put a link down below where you can reach out and schedule with myself worldwide to get to the right root cause and what's happening with you. There's going to be a lot of inputs that can be driving this problem. All right, guys, have an awesome weekend. Happy 4th of July. Take care, y'all. Bye now.